Welcome back to The Money Honey, the show that brings together the most talented women of the property, the finance, and the construction industry. Now, today I am going to be joined by a very dear friend of mine in the industry who I met on LinkedIn a few years back, and I couldn't wait to interview her on the show. So I'm very excited about today's show. But if you're tuning in, what is today going to be about? Well, today's going to be all about discovering what specialist lending could mean for you. So if you are a mortgage broker, but perhaps you're doing, the standard, residential. I mean, there's nothing standard these days, is there? But if you're doing residential cases, you're probably thinking, I want to diversify my business and I want to tap into specialist lending. Then I have got the money honey for you right here, right now, because not only has she been a broker herself and knows what you're going through, knows what it's like on that side of things, but today she's actually wearing a lender hat. So she's gone from broking to lending. Now, this particular money honey comes from a lender called Roma Finance. So again, if you've ever heard of Roma Finance, maybe you're listening to this as a developer or as an investor and you're like, I've got some funding with Roma. So you might want to just tune into learning more about what Roma can bring to you. Maybe you're a broker listening in and being like, I've heard of them, but I've not really used them before. So again, this is a great show to discover what Roma's all about. Or you might be the biggest fan of Roma and you're like, this money honey is my BDM, so or my relationship manager. So yeah, whatever this show may bring to you, I hope you enjoy it, because I am so excited to be speaking to, if you haven't seen already, Claudine Reynolds, who is just literally like the embodiment of energy when it comes to building relationships and really helping people. You'll sometimes see her speaking on panels. She hosts networking events. She sponsors events. She's always there to support and champion everybody. And today is about championing her, and it's about celebrating her because of all the amazing work that she's doing, and she so deserves it. So I really want today to be a real celebration of Claudine. Now, she has got a background in regulated lending, broking, and obviously now, as I said, she works with Roma. So she understands the industry from all angles. So she's really in a great place with a lot of fun and enthusiasm to show you what the specialist lending market is about. Now, she comes with a particular mission, and that mission is to encourage more women to enter the specialist finance industry. Now, I am going to love this message, particularly because I entered the specialist finance industry in 2015. And what I said at the interview, and I don't know if Claudine knows this, but I got the job as a BDM for a specialist finance broker. And literally at the interview, I was like, I have no idea what bridging is. Right. Back then, I was 25 and I was like, I don't know what bridging is. And they were like, you're hired. You got the job. I was like, how? Like, what do you mean? But what they took from me is that I had those transferable skills of building relationships and having meetings and, having that business development experience, and that you can learn specialist lending. So trust me when you are listening to this, if I can go from not knowing, so remember, I wasn't a broker, I didn't do resi cases. So if you're a broker listening to this thinking, how do I even get into bridging and commercial? If I can do it with zero knowledge of what mortgages were and bridging and development and all of that, that's where my journey started. So next year will be my 10-year anniversary within the mortgage and specialist lending industry. I've never worked for a high street lender. I've never done broking. I've only ever done like the packaging side. So all I've ever known is second charges, commercial, development, bridging. That's it. That's all I've ever done. And I used to always support those residential brokers, those regulated, ARs of networks who couldn't access specialist lending. And what I used to do is they used to give me a lead and say, look, I think my client wants to buy their own premises. I'd be like, great, we'll do the work. And then I'd pay them like 50% split fee. So that's another way that brokers can get into specialist lending. They don't have to learn from day one how to package the cases and how to, because you might not have the relationships with the lenders and stuff like that. So because we did part of this brokerage, we had the relationship, we had the BDMs in our office all the time. And that's how I then got the job at Together. So again, if anyone's been following me for a while, that's how I got the job with a specialist lender, because I was sending them deals. I was sending them deals. I was like, hey, Ros, you're doing like quite well in our pipeline. Do you want to come and work with us direct? And that's when I kind of, similar to Claudine, who's going to tell us her journey and her story, that's how I diversified from broking to lending. Well, and now I'm doing something completely different. So that's the journey of specialist lending from my perspective. But yeah, we're going to hear from Claudine today. And as well as being a phenomenal leader in this industry, a huge advocate for specialist lending, she is also a mum of two boys, Thomas and Jack. She says she has a busy household. Outside time is key. So most weekends she enjoys walking outdoors and making new memories, which I love. She's been described as the cool mum, which she's more than happy to take. And I think, given how she's showing up today, she's got a pretty cool cardigan on, guys. Like, there is color popping in this. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll know what I mean. But if you are listening on Spotify, you might just want to check out Claudine on LinkedIn and also the YouTube episode, because this is going to be absolutely popping. So without further ado, let me welcome Claudine Reynolds. Hello.
Hi, Roz. Thank you so much. What an intro. Wow. I kind of felt like I needed to wear the cardigan today because typically I tend to have bright pink hair, but it's dark brown at the moment. So I thought I've got to do something pink. So hence the cardigan this morning. But
I
yeah,
love this cardigan. You're bringing me, like, yeah, Manuka Media vibes, but also your own identity. Because I do remember you with pink hair when you were a broker.
yeah.
I remember seeing you on LinkedIn, and
Yeah, it still goes pink every now and again. It's just really hard to keep up. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah.
because it's short as well. It grows out so quick, and it drives me insane. So I think it's going silver next. When I can,
Oh, you would look so good with silver hair.
it does look good. I've had it silver before, so that's next. So yeah, hence the pink
Yes.
cardigan this morning. Just a bit of colour. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
we just need that bit of colour, don't we? And speaking of colour, we're going to be talking all things colourful within the specialist lending world.
Yeah.
Can I just say, just for the record, Claudine is here, head full of cold, feeling probably, but she didn't give up on me. She came either way. So thank you, Claudine. I know you're not feeling 100%, that typical time, isn't it, with kids going to school and bringing back germs.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Oh no, you're more than welcome. I wouldn't have missed it. I'm looking forward to it. So you talked a bit about your journey, which is amazing. I didn't know you've been in the packaging side of stuff. Obviously I know you from Together previously, in the specialist lending market, both as a broker and having worked there myself. But I wasn't aware that you've been part of a packaging firm as well. So you've gone the other way, just like I went. That I've kind of switched and swapped around and seen the industry from all different angles as well. But I think that gives you a massive USP, certainly as a relationship manager, when you've seen the world from the other side too. You appreciate the challenges and trials and tribulations from a broker side just as much as you see it from the lender side. And I think that just gives a massive USP, especially to a relationship manager or BDM when you've been on the other side of the fence. I think it gives you a lot more empathy, to the people you're dealing with, whether it be direct borrowers because you've dealt with them as a broker, or whether it be brokers because you've been one. You can kind of see it from all angles. And I think it, I definitely think it adds strings to my bow, so to speak.
100%, because what I found that was really unique to my approach with, so when I became a BDM for a lender, because I'd been a broker before, when I'd go and see the ARs, I'd say to them, oh, do you ever get any commercial and bridging inquiries? They're like, no. I'm like, no, you do. Let me
Yeah,
show you. Let me show you where they
yeah,
are,
yeah,
because if you know how to identify them, then you'll naturally talk about them. So you bring about what you speak about. So if you're not speaking about commercial, you're not going to get commercial inquiries because your clients aren't coming to you for that. So you need to
yeah.
speak about it. And you're nodding away there. So please tell me, how did you go from, first, give us a quick intro of who you are and how you went from broking to lending, and did you go back again and back? Yeah, give us an intro.
Yeah, of course. So morning, Ros. Claudine Reynolds, relationship manager for Roma Finance. I've got. Do you know what? I was sitting here. I was writing my bio for this for you, and I realised that I've got over 20 years' experience, and I just thought that makes me feel too old. So I don't really tend to put it now. But yeah. So my first stint was with a regulated financial advice network. So I worked for them for 11 years. So any of those people out there, Sesame Bank or Group, I was with them for 11 years. Did everything from complaints, regulated complaints, to applications. So kind of understood how the ARs went through the FCA application and what, the specifics that they needed to make sure they got approved under the FCA. Did all of that, was with them for 11 years. Got made redundant, panicked. But actually probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because there's life outside. Sometimes you can become very institutionalized, and there is life outside big organizations. Um, Went from there, and I saw that Together had an open day, but I didn't know that. I had a look on the jobs that were available, but there wasn't really anything that was kind of up my street. But I knew one of their senior managers quite well, a guy called Dan Owen Parr, who now works for VAS. So I know Dan really well. And I messaged him saying, look, I'm in the market at the moment. I'd quite like to get back to lending, or that kind of side of things. And he said, oh, actually, I've got a vacancy. I've not managed to get it in the jobs for this open day, but I'd really like to talk to you about it. Now, we were really good friends, or we are really good friends. And we had to have a very open conversation about whether we could both compartmentalize the fact that we were mates and whether I could work for him. Because there's a big difference between being mates and working for someone. But actually, that worked really well. I started with him. I was together for 4 years. I think Together is like lending on speed. It's a mega machine. It's we were doing millions of pounds worth of lending across a lot of transactions. I think the thing that I learned, and the thing that I've kept with me throughout my journey from that I learned from Together, is how to solve problems really quickly. So a lot of people tend to kind of post box, and try and sort of sort queries by maybe making a phone call or sending an email. Um, the USP that I learned is to get everyone on the phone at once. So you might have a valuer, solicitor, and a borrower on the phone all at the same time. But the point is to thrash out whatever the issue is, whatever the sticking point is, and get a resolution and get it resolved and get it moved forward. Because otherwise, you're speaking to the valuer says one thing, then you have to ring the solicitor says something else, then you have to ring the valuer back and check what the solicitor said versus what the valuer. Then you have to update the borrower, and you may as well just get everyone on the phone at one point. So that was kind of a massive learning. And then one of the relationship managers that worked at Together, I knew him really well. He went off and set up his own brokerage, and he said, "I'd love you to come and work with me." It was kind of the first time I'd ever stepped out of the corporate world, and done anything that wasn't working for a big entity. And I sat there at 9 o'clock in the morning, one Monday morning, and thought, well, I don't have a phone, I don't have a laptop, I don't have this kind of stuff. And I rang him and said, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, go and walk the dogs. It's okay. We'll organise all this stuff. Maybe it'll be Wednesday. And I was like, wow. But it took me about 9 months of working for him to realise that it's not just about the hours that you spend sitting in front of your laptop. It's about how you utilise the time that you've got to be as effective as you can be. You don't need to be in front of your laptop from 9 till 5 to be effective. You can be in front of your laptop from 2 till 5 if that's the time that you got. And the other time you could be on the phone or walking the dogs or having a conversation, at a different point. And all of that can work. So I went to work for him kind of to manage his pipeline more than anything. And then I started building a bit of a network myself. I started getting out locally, meeting a lot of business people. I did a lot of local networking. I sort of started to build up some inquiries myself, and I thought, hang on, I could do this. I could broker these deals. I know a lot of people and a lot of lenders now. It was at the time where there were a lot of people that I'd known from previous lenders who'd gone to other lenders. So suddenly I had ins in a million different lenders who I'd spoken to and dealt with on a daily basis, who were now working for other lenders in the industry. So I did that for a couple of years, and then COVID hit, and the I don't know if you remember, but certainly for
Oh,
commercial lending, the slate was wiped clean. Like any applications that you had in pipeline just disappeared because nobody knew what the world was going to look like. And at that point, I started to panic and think, hang on, because I was employed at the time, I thought if for whatever reason, my very, very good friend decides to close his business down, decides to do something else, that's out of my control. And for those who know me well, know that I'm a mega control freak and I would not ever let my life be in someone else's hands, or certainly the destiny of it. So I decided at that point to set up my own limited company and to go out as a self-employed broker. And I said to myself, if I can do it through COVID, I can do it whenever I want. And if I can maintain a pipeline through COVID, and if I can still pay my bills and run the house and all the rest of it through COVID, I can do it. COVID restrictions are lifted. I was still there. I was working with Blaze Commercial Finance, who are based down in Bristol. Great brokerage, great set of guys and girls. And I was still there after COVID, and I thought, wow, I'm doing this. I'm a bona fide broker, and for those who've been through challenges and started things like that and started their own companies, for me, imposter syndrome is massive. And you think, right, well, am I a broker? Am I, how do I qualify as a broker? What says I'm a broker? And then, I was funding deals, and I thought, well, yeah, I'm a broker because I'm funding deals. And then I was like, well, but you haven't done a ground up development yet. So, you can't be a broker if you haven't done one of those. And all the questions that come into your head and the phrases and all that kind of stuff. And 3 years later, I was still there. I was still broken. I was having a great time. Blaze were and are amazing, but they're based down in Bristol, and being the most northerly by quite a while, sometimes it was a little bit isolating when, you had a query or a question or something that you just weren't absolutely sure on. So I made the move to a more local brokerage to work with Michael Street at Word on the Street.
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, there you go.
No
So yeah, me and
way.
Michael and Jazz worked together only for about 6 months. So they were based locally. I went to a black tie event that Switch Property, so Nick Jones at Switch and Dean Kent and Tony, who wasn't part of it then but is now.
I don't know if Nick
Invited
Jones
me.
is now.
Yeah, no, he's still part of Switch.
Nick that I used to work with
No,
at
no, no, no,
Together.
no, 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 no,
Ah,
no,
right.
no, another
No,
Nick.
okay, right.
So I went to work with Word on the Street. They invited me to a black tie event. I went, and sat next to me on the table was Mr. Michael Allison, who we both know from Roma.
Yes, I love Michael.
Oh my God, he's incredible. I
Because
feel
I
like
worked closely with his wife as well. So I worked very closely with Michael and then Tara.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, they were
Yeah,
so
yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
So so I met Michael in the black tie event, drinks prior to sitting down for dinner. He was telling me all about Roma and their growth plans and the funny thing was that as a broker, I placed a client with Roma just before COVID hit, just a single ground up development, at resi development. He always wanted to do it. He was a carpenter by trade. He'd always wanted to build his own, not his own as he was going to live in it, but a property. He'd always wanted to build the property from ground up. Roma were happy to support him. And then COVID hit and he panicked. And Roma really looked after him. They extended without any fees. And really, really looked after him. And I thought, you know what? If they're looking after their clients this well, they must be looking after their staff, because staff look after clients if they're being treated really well. And I just kind of put it on my radar, and I said, you know what? If I ever did go back, they'd be top of my shop. To go back to, because I mean, you're an entrepreneur. It's amazing, but when you're looking at working for people, and when you get to a certain age, you dictate where you want to work. You're not out on the job searching boards. You've already decided where you want to go, and your decision makers, and you know how you're going to get in there. So Michael and I had a really good chat. He was telling me all about Roma's growth plans, and I just, without even really thinking about it, I just kind of said, well, if ever you're up for a chat, let me know. And he kind of did a bit of a double take and, was saying, well, you're smashing it as a broker. Why would you want to come back? And I said, well, you guys are great. You obviously look after your clients. Your values align with mine. You've looked after my clients. So, that's where I want to be. Anyway, there was a lot of movement that happened in Roma over the next couple of months. And I sent Michael a message, and he messaged back within sort of 0.3 seconds saying, oh, you were top of my list today. We want to talk to you. Will you come in and meet Scott? So I said, yeah. We had a really interesting conversation, and I put this on a LinkedIn post very recently because Roma's just won the Equality Employer of the Year at the WRAs. And one of my conversations with Michael before I joined Roma was, Michael, I've built a presence in the industry through having pink hair, networking in hoodies and Nike Air Max. Does that fit? Can that fit in lending? Having come from the very corporate commercial together to really kind of build in a presence as somebody who's very approachable, no nonsense. I look how I expect my borrowers to look. So, I'm not going out suited and booted with a briefcase. It's very much hoodie and jeans and Nike Max, because I feel like that makes people relax straight away, rather than them panicking that they have to be on a certain level because I'm suited and booted, and I'm expecting them to be the same. That's not what I'm about. And his response will sit with me forever. He was like, Claude, we are an inclusive employer, and we want you for your pink hair, for your knowledge, for your experience, and I want you to come and meet Scott, because then you'll see that actually it comes from the top down. When I met Scott, and for those of you who know Scott, I got grilled for about an hour. There were some very direct questions, kind of questioning me and my motives, and we had a really, really good chat. And I liked Scott from what I'd seen on LinkedIn anyway, and about how he was supporting his staff. He got on with me, and now we are here. I'm 18, 20, 22 months in now. Absolutely love it. Roma just fits me, and I feel like I fit Roma really well. So the values and the ethos that Roma go out with is very much how I like to do business. We like for people to build relationships face to face. We like to get out and meet people. And the expectation is that with Roma particularly, we have something called borrower first mentality. So we want to know who we're lending to. So we will go out, we'll meet people, we'll have coffees, we'll see sites. Because for us, if we lend to the right people and we underwrite it right first time, then we're never going to get to the point where they don't do what they say they're going to do, or they're not able to complete on where they say they're going to be. And for Roma, we only make money when people redeem. So we've got a vested interest in getting them to the point where they've finished what they want to do. We don't want to take property, and we don't want to repossess in any way, shape, or form. What we want to do is get them to the end. So if we meet people and we build those relationships and long-lasting relationships, then they're going to get where they want to be. So yeah, 22 months in now. Absolutely love it. So yeah, that's probably a bit about my journey. So I suppose my role with Roma is I've got kind of a two hats role, I guess. So I look after a number of our key brokers. So there's a lot of relationships that I built while I've been in the specialist lending industry, and a lot of people I know through that I've kind of kept in touch with, and I look after now on behalf of Roma. I also look after some of our key partnerships. So Roma's partnered, for example, with the National Federation of Builders. So we're the NFB's lending partner. So I look after the relationship with them. I look after any referrals that they have for us, because again, it's about building relationships with potential borrowers. And I know we would like to talk. And one of the things that I'm really keen on talking to you about today is, it's all well and good finding builders, it's all well and good finding contractors, but how do we find the other ladies that aren't necessarily in the industry but could be? And I think we're doing a lot at the moment in Roma to a large proportion of our senior leadership team is female, and that's great, and it goes out in the industry, and we're known for that, which is fabulous. And I don't know if you saw, Ileana posted a post on LinkedIn after the WRAs, because she noticed that the females went up to accept the equality award that we won, and the person taking photos was our founder.
Yeah, and I saw him that. Yeah, I saw Scott too, and I was like,
Lovely.
yeah, he was taking the photos and he was doing the video, and he didn't go up there to take the photo. I thought he was going to, but and if he had done, I think that would have been equally as honourable because I think he's built that team, he's brought that
Yeah,
team in, but he
yeah.
didn't want to be in the photo. Whatever, that's fine. He wanted to celebrate you guys, but yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah,
How cool is that though?
yeah, he's such a cool guy.
He is ace. But for certainly for Roma, we support a lot of women in finance and women networking events, property networking events. So we've got Women in Property in Manchester that we sponsor and we're part of. We've got Hard Hats to Heels that we don't actually sponsor, we just attend because it's a great
Yeah,
network. Um,
I need to come to that. I haven't been able to come yet. So
oh,
what's
it's
this
great.
Women in Property and Finance? I should know about this, surely.
Women in Property is uh, what's the best way to put it? A location based group. So there's Women in Property in Manchester,
Oh, would
a
you?
number of other ones. WIP, Women in Property in Manchester. But we sponsor that and we also are members of it. Um,
Hmm.
and that's I would say that's kind of your bigger companies. But what's important to Roma is that we have a presence because we're a Manchester based lender with a lot of females. So it was important to us to be part of Women in Property in Manchester. So
Of course.
we sponsored
That
their
looks
summer barbecue.
amazing.
It's amazing. It's great. So we sponsored their summer barbecue in kind of June, July time, which was on an amazing roof terrace in the centre of Manchester with this kind of big glass bubble dome thing, which I don't think I
Ah.
could find ever again if I needed to. But
Oh
was
no, those domes that you eat. Did you eat inside the dome or drink inside the
uh,
dome?
so Rosit was massive. So if you're thinking of the ones where you can sort of sit sort of six people, this was
Oh,
probably
right.
fitted 200 um, under
Oh,
a big
wow.
dome in Manchester. But anyway, that was great. So we sponsored their summer barbecue, and we try and get involved in just a lot of their events, just to have a presence and kind of chat to other people that are in the industry. They also have a lot of support and mentoring, and I'm a mentor with Women in Property in Manchester, but I'm also a mentee as well. So I've a lady who
Interesting.
men
We need to
men
get them on the money, honey, don't we?
they're a good bunch of people.
Oh my gosh, I need to like do more exploring on that
Yeah,
side of
that's
things.
cool. So we go to Hard Hats to Heels. That's another one in Dudley in Birmingham. So we go there. Excuse me. Um, and with that, and then there's a lot of just other female networking events that we go to. We obviously sponsored your retreat, which was incredible, um, and that was amazing to be part of. And I think
Thank
what
you
I
so much. Me and Kim are
oh,
just so like, yeah, so delighted that you guys could be there and sponsor because, we didn't want just a lender who had the budget, right? There's lots of lenders or just different companies that are like, hey, we'll sponsor. And I'm like,
yeah,
we don't just want your logo there. We want
yeah,
you to add value and we want you to have a message. Like, are you breathing and living and taking action with this message? Because women in finance, I don't want it to be a buzzword. I shouldn't have to host an event for just women in finance. It shouldn't have to be a topic, but because I have to do it because we've just not reached that quality, there's still a lot more work to do. So I need companies like yourselves to come forward and show us in action what are you actually doing. So on that note, Claudine, could you just comment? I know there's obviously there's a lot of women that work at Roma. What's kind of the senior structure there? Yeah,
yeah,
tell us a little bit. If you've got any stats on that, that would be amazing.
yeah. Oh, you put me on spot
Or
with stats.
no, rough
I
numbers.
can talk to
Like
you about
yeah.
the structure. So we have Scott, obviously, who's CEO founder. Underneath Scott, there's three directors. So we have Matt, who's director of finance, treasury, all that kind of stuff. Then we have Nathan, who's technology director, and then we have um, Nathan, Matt, and Michael, commercial director, Michael Ellison.
Yes.
And then underneath him sits the senior leadership team, and that's predominantly female led. So you have people like Charlotte, who's head of marketing and comms, Lorraine, who's head of credit. You've got Tina, who's head of our customer services team, and then a whole raft of other females within the company. Again, with our BDM and relationship team, I would say 50-50 female split. Actually, I've missed the most important female, who's obviously my boss, Sonia, who's head of
Yeah,
sales.
so
Um,
yeah,
so when she watches this, she'll be delighted that I've called her out separately. So Sonia
yeah.
Randall is head of sales. Um, so yeah, we have a really strong female presence within the industry. And what I really like about Roma is all the senior leadership and all of the females in Roma not only have an understanding of what Roma does, but across the industry. So we know what our competitors are doing, and we know, where their strengths lie, and where we can potentially obtain more business. So there's a real understanding, even through marketing and comms and credit. They have a real handle on lending as a whole, and um, and the marketplace, and where our voice sits. And I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I love that. So if someone was looking to come into specialist lending, you and I kind of went in there deep end, just kind of got on with it.
Yeah.
What would you say to maybe like those resi brokers who are like, oh, but when and how and what do I do? Or yeah, what's the journey? What would you recommend?
So that's a really interesting question, because I had that one very recently, from someone who was in the regulated side of things, who wants to get over to the unregulated side, and do more bridging and development. And I said there's probably two entry routes I see. The first is through a lender. So start working for a lender, whether it be as a relationship manager or business development manager, or within kind of the back office team. Um, so supporting underwriters, people like that, to really kind of gain an in-depth understanding of unregulated transactions, because regulated versus unregulated, you'll know the difference is huge. Um, and then, so that's one route, is through a lender. The other route is through a broker, and to be either employed or self-employed through a brokerage. Um, the benefits of going through a brokerage is that you'll see the industry, so you'll get a far wider view of lending. But the cons of that is you do get a far wider view, so it's not as detailed or nailed down as if you're working for a lender. But yeah, I see kind of two entry routes, either through a lender, or through a brokerage.
Yeah.
I think for us, and we were chatting a little bit about this before the podcast, but Roma's really interested in supporting more females through specialist finance. And we support a lot of females through lending. And there's a number that we've supported through the networking groups that we're part of at the moment. So Hard Hats to Heels, for example, we supported a number of borrowers through Hard Hats to Heels, and again through Women in Property. And I think females, Ros, just network on a different level.
Mm.
So guys, when the first ever meeting, well, two examples. The first ever meeting I went to at Hard Hats to Heels, we we didn't chat about who did what, or what anybody's role was within kind of construction finance business. We were chatting as to who was in what part of relationships. So who was divorced, who was single, who was married, who was, who was newly in a relationship, and that's literally how we started talking. And then then you get on to, okay,
It's a friendship first, isn't
it's
it?
a friendship first.
Friendship first.
Exactly,
You're like at
exactly.
the Women in Finance retreat, the house that we hosted that you came to. We wanted that experience to be like you met everyone whilst having afternoon tea,
Yeah,
and you got to chat to everyone like whilst you're having a cake or a sandwich. And that's what we wanted you to feel, is the experience, not the
yeah.
formality of
And
like, oh, this is what we do.
that was going to be my second example. So at the
Oh,
retreat,
sorry, I just
well, no. But you picked up on exactly the same thing that I was. The other example was meeting everybody at the retreat. And the beauty of that is we sponsored the afternoon tea, and what I didn't realize, and what was amazing about it, was that it was the first meeting of everybody. So
oh
while
yeah.
some people knew who everybody was, not everybody did. So it was so nice to stand or sit with a glass of champagne and a cake and a sandwich, and just chat about who everyone was, and what their background was. Emma Ross, I've seen her loads on LinkedIn, never met her face to face, not once. And
Wow.
now I've met her face to face, and it was great. and she's lovely. And then there was loads of other people who I've never met previously, who I've now met and got a relationship with. Some of those people were then winners at the
Yes.
WRAs, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I was absolutely gutted. They did it on a Tuesday, and Tuesday is one of my mum nights, so I
Oh,
wasn't able to
right,
get.
right.
Well, yeah, so you have to choose sometimes,
Yeah,
and there
oh,
might be
mate, there's
voices,
so much going on out there. Yeah, I
and
missed the Thursday night event, but I had no voice left. I was like, I went to Tuesday night WRAs. Wednesday morning, I had the Ladies Who Can brunch.
yeah,
And then Thursday night, and then Thursday during the day, I went into a school to speak about financial education. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
amazing,
business and stuff. So I
amazing,
needed my voice for that. And then Thursday night, I was like, I can't go to London and network tonight. I was like, even though my business head was like, but Roz, you're going to miss out on opportunities and you need to
yeah,
network and meet people. But my body was like, but Roz, like, you can't go there and be the worst version of yourself. Like
yeah,
that's not going to be very productive. But yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to create here, Claudine. We've had a bit of a backlash from people saying, "Oh, why is it only women?" And why don't you host something for the men? And but I'm like, but we have to create these intimate spaces where even if it's just like, even the house was like 20 delegates, that's it,
mm,
20
mm,
people, and so many people were sat in the hot tub. There was like 6 to 8 people in a hot tub at some point, and that was their networking opportunity, like that. And also there's only a certain type, like, that we're also quite cautious about what kind of women we're inviting as well. Like we just want good people. It's not just
yeah,
women, we just want good people. Or I spend a lot of time with guys. Like, most of my clients are men and always have been. I've had a great career and relationship with networking and mingling with men. I don't have a problem, I don't see that divide, but that divide exists, and I have to create this space.
Do you know what, Roz? For those who are potentially offering backlash, there are a lot of guy only type events. Um,
Yeah,
you look at you look at the majority of golf days, for example,
thank
very few
you.
females. You look at the majority of clay pigeon shooting, the majority of corporate exec events that are sponsored by big corporate companies are predominantly guys that go to it. So I I don't think there's any issue with having a female only retreat.
Oh, I'm not apologising at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am not apologising for having them, because I also don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think we ever will be equal, because we physically can't be. There are things that women, this is my opinion, there are things that women go through that men will never, ever, ever, ever go through. So even if I make it on the board of directors somewhere, there will be physical things that will hold me back from being there like a guy is. That's all
yeah,
I'm going to say. I'm just going to
yeah,
leave it there, because I think you get in between the lines what I'm trying to say here. Like,
yeah,
there's things that women will only ever feel and only ever do. And sometimes we do need that cup of tea and that little quiet moment with our female colleagues. Just as much as there are male supportive groups that I think men in our industry should be more emotionally intelligent to welcome into our industry,
yeah,
why isn't there a men's support group who have maybe been through like an illness or have been through a burnout, and now, like, there are many men that perhaps are still, um there's still pressure on them to be the breadwinner of the family, because that's how they set it up, but maybe they've gone through burnout. So I'm also thinking about the men that perhaps are going through some mental health um concerns. But I can't host that. I can't host a mental health organization for men. Someone out there needs to take the lead on that. And we'd be
yeah.
complete, like, that's completely okay for men to want to talk to another man about their man stuff, right?
Man, oh, I
Man
love that.
stuff.
Yeah,
Like, that's just what it's going to be, and that's okay. And we are coming in with love and peace. What we are saying, we're not doing this event against men. We're doing this to nurture us and support us and give ourselves what we need.
and do you know what? That's a really key point of it. This is not about male bashing. It's never been about male bashing. It's not about male bashing. It's just about providing a safe environment for women so that when they walk in, they feel included. Not
And how many times did we talk about men at the afternoon tea? Zero. it didn't even come up. So it's not like we're here like, you know, with a cauldron and we're like, but no, we're like, do you know what I mean? We're here to
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
nurture ourselves and like, yeah. So
Support.
thank you to you guys. Like, you get it, you understand it, you support it, and yeah, we are just so incredibly grateful to have you in our industry who can be the front face and leader of that in your way. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, you're welcome.
But we are wrapping up the show now, and we just want to make sure that everyone who has enjoyed the show today, and thank you for tuning in and listening to Claudine and myself catch up with all things specialist finance and women in finance related. Now, obviously, you can catch Claudine at any of the networking events that she goes to. So she's already suggested some that are really cool, like the association. So I've looked it up. It's called the Association of Women in Property, and their website is womeninproperty.org.uk. So we can put that in the show notes. There's Hard Hats to Heels. Myself and Kim will be organising a lot more like women in finance retreats and events. So please stay tuned for that and look out for that. We're also going to Cannes. I don't know if Claudine's coming to Cannes, but we're going to Cannes for MIPIM. We'll see. But of course, you can get involved in that. And then Claudine, is LinkedIn the best channel for you for people to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to find me there. There's a great pink hair picture on my LinkedIn from Bridget Commercial
Yes.
Magazine. So yeah, find me on there, and my contact details are up to date on LinkedIn. So if you want to give me a call, my number's on there.
Great. Thank you, Claudine, for using your time and your energy and your wisdom to empower the listeners here on this show. So please, guys, as I've always said, these speakers are using up their time and they're giving this time up for you to take a little nugget or a light bulb moment. So if you've enjoyed this episode or you have got something out of it, please let Claudine know. It's always nice to say, hey, I listened to your show. Thank you. Like, that's all you have. That's your way as a listener. If you're not on the show speaking, which you can be, but if you're not on the show speaking, your way of, as you guys know, listening, my motto here at the Money Honey is positive pollination. So your way of contributing to that positive pollination is just a token of appreciation or just a thumbs up or a like or a comment. That's your way of helping Claudine raise her profile and grow her voice into our industry and spread the message further, but also, make this show better for everybody listening. So thank you to all of the listeners. You are so important in growing the show and also helping people like Claudine get her message out there. And Claudine, of course, thank you once again for being such a great money honey. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.